Before calling this witness, we would like to give the floor to parties who would like to make any observation concerning the expression of the suffering made by the civil party before lunch. You may proceed. Council Angodam. Thank you, Mr. President and Your Honors. I do not have any specific observation concerning any particular civil party, but I have a relevant question to be put before the Chamber for consideration. During the time when the civil party expresses her suffering, she described about the facts that fall outside the scope of case file 002/01. My question is whether when the civil party is allowed to express her suffering outside the scope of the case file, whether such a statement can also be used as evidence within the case file, or can this statement be used for future evidence when the parties were not given opportunity to challenge such statement? The President, does any other party to the proceeding wish to also make any observation concerning the position by Counsel for Ieng Sari, Counsel for the civil parties? You may now proceed.
Yes, Mr. President. Simply, it seems that we spoke about this yesterday, and the Chamber gave us the possibility, or gave the civil party the possibility to express herself regarding case 002, and the Chamber is expecting a document from us, and we are drafting it right now. And it seems to me that all parties took advantage of the opportunity to question this civil party, in particular Nuon Chia's defense, that question the civil party on the entire scope of case 002. So all of the parties have been able to challenge the civil party and check the credibility of what she was saying. So I don't think that there are any problems here.
The President, thank you, Counsel, for this. We have already discussed about this when this same issue was raised concerning the facts when civil party was examined, and also the statement civil party is supposed to make concerning his or her suffering. However, to be more precise on this, the Chamber will rule in due course upon receiving the written submission made by the lead co-lawyers for the civil party. Council had already been instructed to submit such specific submission so that the Chamber has ground for our ruling. We already discussed this. And regarding the way of evidence, the Chamber wishes to also inform the parties that during the examination, we also make it clear that the facts are relevant to case file 002/01. So the Chamber is considering, based on its discretion, the facts at issue, and the Chamber is convinced that it has the ability to look into the matters relevant to case file 002/01 for the time being, and we will also consider facts relevant to case file 002/02 at a later date. We also see that this is the way we are proceeding. Next. Court officer is now instructed to call witness TCW 362. The President, the Chamber wishes to inform the public and the parties to the proceeding that the Chamber is seized of the waiver by Mr. Ieng Sari. The waiver in which Mr. Ieng Sari has waived his right to the testimonies of 10 witnesses, including the civil parties, and here TCW 362 is one among the witnesses. And we also received medical report from the hospital indicating that Mr. Ieng Sari is still being admitted to the hospital at the Khmer Soviet Friendship Hospital, and he has requested that he has waived his right to the testimony of certain civil parties and witnesses due to his health concern. At the same time, Mr. Ieng Sari is mentally fit, and that we can proceed hearing the testimony of TCW 360 in the absence of Mr. Ieng Sari. And at the same time, the Chamber wishes to also inform the parties to the proceeding that the witness is assisted by jury counsel, Mr. Lim Bun Heng. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. What is your name, please? Witness. Good afternoon, Mr. President. I am Kung Kim. I live in Prey Tang Thnung, Chiep Sub-District, Tek Pho, Kampong Chnang. I have 4 children. Question. Apart from your full name Kung Kim, do you have any alias? Response. People also call me Cơ. Question. What do you do for a living? Response. I am the commune councillor. Question. What is your father's name? Response. He is Chulong, deceased. Question. What is your mother's name? Response. She is Leng Kia, deceased. Question. What is your wife's name? Response. She is Teng Mot. The President. Thank you, Mr. Kung Kim. According to the report by the greffier of the trial chamber, you stated that you has no relation or connection to any of the parties to the proceeding, including the accused persons, Mr. Nuon Chie Ieng Sri and Khieu Sompon. Is that statement correct? Response. Yes, it is, Your Honor. Question. Mr. Kung Kim, have you taken an oath before you take the stand? Response. I have already taken the oath. Question. When did you take the oath and where? Response. I took the oath just a moment before I appeared before the chamber. Question. Was that conducted before the Iron Jenny to the east of this building in this vicinity? Response. Yes, it is, Your Honor. The President. Thank you, Mr. Witness. The Chamber would like to inform you of your rights before the Chamber. Mr. Kung Kim, as a witness, you can refuse to respond to any questions that are self-incriminating. You enjoy the right against self-incrimination of witnesses. And as a witness, you shall give testimonies before this chamber, and you shall respond to all questions put by the parties and the judges of the bench. And at the same time, you may refuse to respond to any questions if the questions are relevant to any responses that are against your self or are self-incriminating. And at the same time, you are to respond to the questions based on your experiences, what you saw and come across during the time, the events. Mr. Kung Kim, have you ever given any interviews or being interviewed by any co-investigating judges for the last few years? Response. I gave an interview to an investigating to co-investigating judges at my home The President, do you remember when was it? Response, I'm afraid I do not remember the exact date of the interview. Question, before you appear before the chamber, Mr. Kung Kim, have you reviewed the written record of your interview that you gave before the investigating judge to refresh your memory? Response, yes, Your Honor, I have read the written record, the questions and answers that conducted by the co-investigating judges and I myself. Question, according to your best recollection, is the account in the written record consistent to the interview you gave to the investigators previously? Response, yes, it is. The account is consistent to the one I gave before the co-investigating judge. The President, thank you, Mr. Witness. Now, to the prosecution, the chamber would like to inform you that you will be allotted the time and opportunity to put questions to this witness before the other parties. You may now proceed. Mr. Wainwright. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. And good afternoon, Mr. Witness and parties to the proceeding who are in the courtroom today. I am from the Office of the Co-Prosecutors. I have a few questions to be put to you. And before I proceed with the questions, with Mr. President's leave, I would like to hand over the record of the interview he gave to the investigating judge before and the reason I would like to hand this over to the witness because I would like to make sure that he has access to the document and to ease our time in questioning him. The President, could you please identify the document first? Mr. Wainwright, Mr. President, this document is D166/76. The President, can you repeat that? Is it 26 or 24? Mr. Wainwright, this D166/76. Mr. Wainwright, my sincere apologies, Mr. President and Your Honors. Indeed, it is D166/74. The President, you may proceed, and court officer is now instructed to hand over the document to the witness. Question. Mr. Kung Kim, perhaps it is not yet an appropriate time for you to look at the record of the interview as yet. I would like to proceed with a few questions first before we refer to the document. Can you please tell the chamber when you joined the army? Response. I joined the army in 1974. Question. How old were you at that time? Response. I was 15 years old. Question. Can you please describe the military structure concerning the North Zone Division 310 and your roles before 1975? Indeed, your roles before April 1975. Response. I joined the army in 1974 as stated in Kampong Thom. Later on, I was transferred to the North Zone Military Complex, and by early 1975, I was again transferred to Prekdam location to fight a battle that leads to Phnom Penh. Question. Prior to the 17th of April 1975, had you attended any military meetings when you were in the army? Response. I attended meetings, but at the level of the battalion and the company and the subgroup. I never attended any meetings at the regiment level. I was rather young at that time. I was very young. Question. Do you recall who led such meetings? Response. During the meetings, Pon, who was the head of the platoon, would be leading the meeting, and another group leader by the name of Lam also chaired the meetings. Question. Do you still remember the content or the agenda of the meeting? Response. During the meetings, we would be lectured on the plan to attack Phnom Penh. It was the military tactics, how to be prepared to attack the city. Question. What kind of instructions or orders were you given at that time? Response. I was receiving order to join the forces to attack Phnom Penh through Prek Phnom battlefields, Phnom Krongan, and other battlefields leading to Phnom Penh. Question. Can you please look at the copy I just handed over to you and look at question And answer number 3. I would like to read the ERN numbers of the document in Khmer, which is 00270163. English ERN 00278681. French ERN 00486096. I would like to read from the statement as follows. At the same time, I received orders to shoot and kill right away any soldiers or anyone dressed as a soldier. My question to you is, from whom did you receive this order? Response. I received from the head of the platoon, Comrade Pon, and the order was rendered from the company. And as a young soldier, I did not attend such meeting where the order was rendered, but as a person in the platoon, I had to receive order from upper echelon. Question: how was the order rendered? Was it the way the instructions could have been delivered? And were the orders or instructions rendered through meetings or through other means? Response: orders normally rendered through meetings, and also instructions could be given at the battlefields. And we were instructed that if we saw any civilian facing us in the opposite direction, then we had to shoot them.
You said just now, as long as you met the people who blocked your soldiers, or if you found any soldiers blocking you or in front of your soldier, you would shoot them. Is that what you are telling the court? Response: yes, we were ordered to shoot, but as I said, we were the Khmer soldiers, and the soldiers that we were supposed to attack were the Lon Nol soldiers, and they were considered external soldiers. Question: you then receive this order, but did you carry out this order against the civilian as well, or you only shoot the Lon Nol soldier? Did you, in other words, did you comply with the order? Response: upon receiving the order, I was in both the rear and the battlefields. I never met civilians. I only encountered soldiers. We clashed with the soldiers. We never saw civilians in the battlefields. Question: I would like to expand a bit further on this point. Your squad killed civilians as well as Lon Nol soldiers. I would like to know, before people or civilians or Lon Nol soldiers were killed or shot, did they for example, raise any white flag to surrender or retreat. If you look at question and answer 17 on, no, rather question 7, question and answer. The President, witness, please hold on. The National Defense Counsel for Mr. Kyu Sampon is on his feet. You may proceed, Counsel. Counsel Kung Samon. Thank you, Mr. President. Just now, the National Prosecutor said that it was the statement of the witness before us that his soldiers in his court would kill civilians even if they raise a white flag to retreat. But actually it was not a statement from the mouth of the witness. The witness did not state that, Mr. President. Mr. Wayne Hood. In the question I mentioned, the investigator of the OCIJ asked the witness that when they were advancing on the offensive to Phnom Penh, did his squad kill or shoot any civilian? And at that time, he mentioned in his statement that during the shooting, it was usual that certain people were killed, but those were not the target of the soldiers. So I would like to ask him to explain when he was shooting the soldier and the civilians, whether or not those people had raised a white flag or so, and then you still killed them. The President. Prosecutor, can you please base your question on a very precise portion of the witness statement? If I look at this witness statement, it does not come in the order you indicated to the witness. So it is advisable that you refer to a specific question in the written record of interview. Particularly, you should make mention the relevant ERN number for other parties to refer to the relevant portion of this. That's why there was a question raised by the Defense Counsel for Mr. Kyu Sampon. Prosecutor. Thank you, Mr. President. If you look at question 7, I put the order in this written record of interview. In Khmer 00 220164, French 0048 6097, English 00278682. The President, could you please rephrase your last question? And the question should be based on the substance of the written record of interview of this witness. You have to be precise on the basis on which you ask the question, because it seems that you based on something very new, and then you said that there were question 7, you were referring to question 7 or so, but other parties might not be aware of the order of questions in the written record of interview. Mr. Weinhood. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to put my question again. You said in your statement that when I fired, I must have hit and killed some, but I never first captured or shot and killed any of them. So my question to him, whether or not there were exchanges of fire with those people or soldiers, or did you shoot them even if they had already waved or raised their white flag? The President, I note the Defense Counsel, International Defense Counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia is on his feet. You may proceed, Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it would be clearer if the Cambodian prosecutor would also read out the question that is asked just before the answer that he just read out. The question that was asked was, during the attack on Phnom Penh, did you or your squad shoot any soldiers or civilians? And then the answer is, when I fired, I must have hit and killed some, but I never first captured and then shot and killed any of them. I think that makes more clear to the witness that the question related to shooting either soldiers or civilians, and the witness has just stated that he never saw any civilians while in combat. So I think it will be fair to the witness to read out the entirety of the question and answer segment.
The President, thank you. Prosecutor, please be reminded that you have limited time to put the question to the witness, and your first and question is not clear, and there has been comments by other parties. So please try to make sure that your question is precise and clear. And in addition, the questions that you phrased just now was a bit different from the statement that he provided to the investigator of the OCIJ. And you asked the question, a literal question, that whether this witness had shot and killed any civilians or soldiers. So this question is incriminatory in nature to this witness. Mr. Wayne Hood, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to now rephrase the question. In the same question, you told the investigators that when I fired, I must have hit and killed some, but I never first. That's what you said in that. And my question that I would like to expand on this, when you shoot or hit those soldiers, did you shoot at them when they actually fire back at you, or when they had already waved or raised the white flag? That's my question. I would like to ask for you to enlighten the court. Mr. Wainwood, Mr. Witness, do you understand my question? Otherwise, I will try to simplify it. On this particular point, as per the order I received, we had to attack them, but the killing and shooting against the soldiers and civilians, that was the time when we were advancing on the offensive to Phnom Penh, and at that time we hit and killed, including civilians, but in Phnom Penh there were fires everywhere, so we could not be 100% sure that those people had raised their white flag, because there were people who surrendered and retreated, but there were others who were among them as well. So we were not sure, so we had to shoot those who were there. So in document in Khmer 00270125, English 00278683, in French 0088 6097. In the question order 11, in the witness written record of interview, and I would like to read out this portion. Answer: I saw bodies floating in the water. I saw a few bodies of Lon Nol soldiers and continuously saw many bodies of people who had died along the streets, and some were blood-stained. and some were in the road and had been run over by our vehicles from kilometer 6 all the way to Troi Changwa Bridge. On this particular statement, you saw those dead bodies. Why didn't you carry those dead bodies? Why did you drive over those dead bodies? Was it because there were too many bodies scattered everywhere along the street and you could not avoid running over them?
បាទនៅពេលនោះគឺ
On the day when we attacked Phnom Penh, we were on the trucks, and at that time the trucks did not transport the ordinary civilians. We transported soldiers, so the soldier had to be reinforced into the city in order to capture the city. So we had our mission, so we had to drive over there, and at that time our soldiers were lost in terms of geographical location of the city. What we had to do at that time, we had to come and assemble at the specific target that we were supposed to station, and that was it.
ខ្ញុំចង់ដឹងថា
Question. I just wanted to know, why didn't you just drive away from the dead bodies? Why did you have to run over those dead bodies?
បាទពេលនោះដូចខ្ញុំ
As I said in my statement, at that time the situation was chaotic and everything was in the rush, and the dead bodies were scattered everywhere from one place to another. I was not the driver. I was on the truck. There was another driver. We tried to avoid running over those dead bodies, but we could not always avoid running over those dead bodies because it was everywhere.
អរគុណលោកខ្ញុំបន្តសំណួរទៅមុខ
Thank you. I move on then. When you were leading your squad and your forces to Phnom Penh, and then you finally captured Phnom Penh, were you promoted to a higher position in command?
បាទពេលដែល
Response. When we were fighting to capture Phnom Penh, I was not holding any position. I was an ordinary rank and file combatant.
ខ្ញុំសូម
00270164 in Khmer and ERN in French 00278682 and French 00486097. You say that when you first got to the city, you went to drive the people out of their houses, and you went to search in every houses in the city and then drive people away. I would like to know, when you went to carry out this mission, did you receive any order from anyone, and if so, who were they?
បាទមុនដំបូងចូលដល់ទីក្រុងភ្នំពេញ
Response. When I got to Phnom Penh, we had to station at a particular target we were assigned to. So at first, the forces were not mobilized to search the house. We had to control our own respective force. And in Phnom Penh at that time the situation was chaotic. There were still soldiers of Lon Nol and Khmer Rouge soldiers. So first of all, when we got into Phnom Penh, we had to control our own force. And after that, there were instructions from the platoon. The platoon received order from the company and battalion or so, and there was another special force which were tasked to evict people out of the city. However, there were peoples who remained in the houses, particularly those who live in the upper story buildings. So those soldiers who were stationed in Phnom Penh had to conduct the final search in the house in order to ensure that everyone was evicted and left their houses. Thank you. Question. So did you receive any particular order against those who resisted leaving their home? What was the instruction from the superior? Response. There was a plan to evacuate people out of Phnom Penh. The large majority of people left the city. There were only a small minority of people left in the houses, and soldiers were tasked to conduct the final search. And when we conducted the search, we encountered soldiers and we exchanged fires and we killed some of them. But as for civilians, we had to bring them down, and then we had to order them to leave, and these were done by the battalions or companies or platoons, and I was under the instruction of Hunt, who was the commander attached to my squad and section. Question. In the same document in English 0027 0165. That is in Khmer. In English 0027 8683, and French 00486097. For your convenience, in your document, it is question order 12. The question by the investigator was, were there really orders from the people to leave, and if they did not leave, they were to be killed? And then you responded, yes, those were the orders. They came through Tajam, as always. Do you stand by this statement?
But
Response. Jim, he was the commander of a battalion. When the first wave of people in the city were evacuated, then there was another order to search every house to find those who resist leaving, and those people were accused of being enemies. So there were orders all the way through the regiments, battalions, as well as company and platoons to ensure that there were no any other people other than our soldiers to remain in the city. As for others who were not our soldiers were considered enemy. But in reality, I myself had never captured any one of them, and I had never killed any one of them. But we did receive orders. Because a question, due to the urgency of the evacuation of people out of Phnom Penh, what did you tell the civilian when you order the civilian to leave their homes? What the real orders you handed down to them? Response. Upon receiving the orders and plan of evacuation, actually my squad was not tasked to evacuate the people. Actually, there were special forces tasked to evacuate the people out of the city. As for my forces were to be stationed and one specific target in order to defend our target. So once the people were evacuated, there were minority people who stayed behind, so we had to ensure that those people left the city as well. Thank you. So I move on to my next question. You said there were people who left later than others, and your task was to make sure that they left. And how about in the hospital? Did you go to the hospital? Were there any patient or people in the hospital who left behind?
បាទចំពោះ
Response. When I got to Phnom Penh, I received the instruction to defend my target. I had to station in the target. And for myself, I did not know. I never went to the hospital. We were instructed to station in a specific location, so we had to defend our target. So we were not allowed to travel anywhere at our own will. So we have to be stationed exactly as what we instructed to do. ខ្ញុំ Question. I have only one final question for you. In relation to the evacuation of people, did you ever see the children group who were waiting for their parents, for their fathers or mother, and they did not want to leave because they insisted that they had to wait for their parents? Did you ever encounter this situation? Response. When the plan to evacuate people were executed, the city streets were crowded with people marching out of the city, and its situation were chaotic. We never saw any separate groups of children loitering on the street or so. Mr. Vainhuot, thank you, Mr. Kung Kim, for responding to my questions. I thank you very much for your time. And Mr. President, that is all for me, and I would like to hand over to my international colleague to continue our lines of questioning. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good afternoon, Your Honours, and good afternoon, Council, and good afternoon, Mr. Kung Kim. Thank you for coming to assist the Court in searching for the truth and in answering my colleagues' questions. I'm going to follow up with some of these areas that you've already discussed. And if I can start with the order or the orders that were given to members of your division, and you've already told my colleague about some of these orders. What I'd like to look at is how the orders were communicated. In your statement, D166/74, there is a relevant passage, and this is at Khmer ERN 00270164, French 00486-096, and English 00278-682. And this is the passage. Question: did your superiors tell you how to handle prisoners and the people? Answer: at the time, I received orders not to take prisoners. Anyone in the vicinity of the city's defensive belt was to be shot right away, no matter where the soldiers were. they were to be shot at once. These orders came from Division Chairman Un through Regimental Chairman Song and Battalion Chairman Yim, all the way down to me. My first question is, you mentioned earlier, I think you mentioned an individual, Un. Can you confirm for us that it was the divisional commander who issued the order and that the order came down to you to be implemented, to not take any prisoners?
Response. Upon receiving the orders, I did not receive orders from the upper echelon. I knew that Un was the commander and Song was from the regiment, when Jim from the battalion. And these orders were rendered from them, and I never attended any meetings with the regiment and battalion. I only attended meetings at the platoon.
Thank you. Because in your statement you indicate that the order had come from the division chairman Un, could you tell us how you knew that orders would be coming from the division chairman?
Response. I learned this through the plan of the company, who said that the orders were rendered from division and that the lower level of the military structure had to implement such order.
Thank you. And was that common as part of your military duties? Did you normally receive orders coming from the division level? Was that something that was done in the ordinary course of battles, or was it only on this occasion?
Response. During the fighting, we never met in persons with the head of divisions or regiments or the battalion. We only met with or received orders from the head of the platoon or the company. We never met them face to face, and we had our different groups where orders could be rendered through them to us.
Thank you. Am I correct in understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that all military operations in your division were commanded by Un, by Ta Un?
Response. Yes, it is correct.
Thank you. And do you know who Ta Un reported to?
Response. As already indicated, I know no one from battalion level up to the division, because I am familiar with only the persons who were in charge of the platoon or company, no more than that.
Thank you. We might come back to one in a little bit later. If we look at your statement again, and this is at Khmer 00270164 towards the bottom of that page, in French 00486097, and in English 002786882. You described there that your squad was based in and controlled the north section of the city. I'm interested in the next passage. Quote, "We had to conduct searches and drive the people away, and there were no rules at all against shooting the people. I never saw anyone who had shot them be punished for having done so. Some had morals and did not fire. Those who had no morals did fire." Can you tell us how it was that you knew that some of the soldiers were firing at the people in the city?
Response. At different target location, there was no rules or regulation on not shooting people rendered to us. And during operations, sometimes we encountered with the remaining soldiers, the soldiers who could exchange fire with us, and the casualties were not avoided, and sometimes the fires were exchanged when the people were caught across in between, and that also led to some civilians' casualties.
Moving on with that, in that same statement, the next passage, so immediately below the section we just read, you say the following: "As for driving the people out, that was difficult because some remaining Lon Nol soldiers were throwing grenades from up above and killing Khmer Rouge soldiers, and some of the people up above refused to leave. Therefore, we received orders to cut off the water and electricity for a half month. Then we captured the people who came down and sent them to our superiors." Can I ask you, how long after the 17th of April was it that you were ordered to cut off water supply in order to drive the remaining people out?
Response. After Phnom Penh liberation, and after noting that it is not easy to evacuate the remaining people who living up above, who still could cook their rice because there was still running water available to them. So upon orders, it was the plan by the division to our platoon to cut off water supply so that people could no longer access to such water supply, and soldiers would be able to use the water that could have been stored in a reservoir or tanks, but there was no longer running water. But that was the order.
Thank you. In order to explore some of these areas further, I want to ask you about another interview that we have a record of. Do you recall being interviewed by people from the Documentation Center of Cambodia in July of 2002?
Response: Yes, I do.
Your Honours, we have on the case file a transcription of this interview. It is document 19.96. It runs into well over 50 pages in Khmer. With your leave, I would hand it to the witness and ask him some more questions.
The President, you may proceed. Court officer is now instructed to bring the document from the prosecutor to the witness for examination.
Thank you, Your Honours. Mr. Kung Kim, I'm not sure whether you have seen this document before. It appears to be a transcription of a taped interview. Can I ask you first if you have seen it before?
Response: The document I'm holding now, I have never seen it. The President, court officer is now instructed to retrieve the document from the witness.
Just to confirm, Mr. Kung Kim, you've just told us that you do recall this particular interview, and it does look like a transcription that might have been made following the interview. So I'm not surprised that you haven't necessarily seen it. In this document, you discussed the same topics that we're discussing today, and I want to ask you a few questions to see if we can elaborate in a bit more detail. And this is a section that deals with the problem of Khmer Rouge, rather Khmer Republic soldiers who were encountered. And you, according to this transcript, you said the following: the soldiers of my unit, and I will give the ERNs first, I apologize. The Khmer ERN is 0005484, French 00403350, and English 0063387. And this is the section. The soldiers of my unit, just arrived from the forests, were wearing the uniform made from polyester material. Our uniform was thin and in green color. Our cap was sewed with different kind of thread. Some of our soldiers who had arrived in town earlier became overexcited. When they found the Lon Nol soldiers' uniforms were still new, they put them on. Then, when the next wave of troops arrived, they misidentified them So they shot at each other, killing many of our own troops during that confusion. And let me ask you about that first. Do you recall that situation of some of your soldiers or some of the Khmer Rouge soldiers putting on uniforms of Lon Nol troops and being shot following the fall of Phnom Penh?
Response. When we were entering Phnom Penh, we noted the chaotic situation. The people also were confused, and the soldiers were at the same time confused. First, people were scattered, our forces was not properly managed, and the soldiers who were ill-disciplined, when they saw the uniforms, the military uniform, took them on. And at that time, people were misidentified and fire were exchanged. And some soldiers who were from the jungle were too overjoyed with the victory. When they came to Phnom Penh, they drove the car so fast that they crashed and killed themselves as well. The President, thank you, Council. Thank you, the parties. We now should adjourn briefly, and the court will adjourn for 20 minutes. Court officer is instructed to assist the witness during the adjournment, and the court will adjourn now and resume by 3 o'clock.